last chapter, guys. We're done with this class. We've made it through, or almost made it through. So chapter 12 is implementation and presentation. So this chapter is just basically reviewing everything that we've talked about in our previous lectures. So we're basically going to be skimming over all the stuff that we talked about. So it'll be a good way to wrap up this class. Our outline for this evening: introduction, preventative brokerage, and the broker working for or with the seller, the broker working for or with the buyer. Like I said, stuff we've gone over buyer and seller, the broker working with them. Also, a practical guide to everyday use, using rehearsed dialogue, other considerations, and risk management. So there's 3 routine actions. One is to use written disclosures. Second is to clarify the broker's role in the transaction. And the third is to use the help of others when needed. So these are used in brokerages quite often. Always use written disclosures is a big one. We get tired of forms here. I get tired of forms.
Yeah.
We deal with a lot of forms. But it helps prevent you from getting sued.
Yeah.
If you have it in writing. So that's why we keep saying written disclosures is important, very important. So failure of an agent to disclose a material fact is a major source of complaint. We've talked about that before. It's actually the biggest source of complaints as far as when someone complains about their agent. It's mostly going to be about a material fact. And that goes back to, like I was saying, if you're not certain about something, just say you don't know. That'll help protect you from having this happen to you. So document that info was provided and some form of forbidden law. You should have some form of forbidden law. Some sellers are exempt from the written disclosure notice. Remember the seller disclosure notice? Some are exempt from that. I believe we've covered that as well. And don't practice where you have little or no expertise. We told you all that before. If I'm going to Dallas to show properties, I really don't know the area. So I wouldn't be very confident in that area. So don't practice where you have little or no expertise, or bring someone along with you that does have the expertise. And there's different duties to client and customer. Remember that? We covered that. What is the difference there? What is the difference between a client and a customer?
Client's when you gotta go sign with, and then customer. That's the bad version, but yeah, you
Got it. Yeah. So if they're a client, I have a representation agreement with them, or a written agreement with them. So the broker working for or with the seller. Oh, also, yeah, back here, don't practice where you have little or no expertise. It'd be like commercial. Commercial is a completely different. I can technically do commercial because I have a real estate license, but I've never done commercial, and apparently it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, it's an entirely different thing.
It's an entirely different thing. So me going into trying to do commercial would be me practicing where I have little to no expertise.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how they are different, but I have heard, and Justin has told me, commercial is very, very
You
different.
deal with a lot more experienced people.
Yeah.
With buying a house, it's usually just some guy looking to buy a house.
Yeah.
When you're buying commercial, that's when you're dealing with like businessmen who have bought 4 companies before, like whatever, and so you just get a lot more people really watching your butt, making sure you're doing what you're doing,
you
and
really
also
gotta cover yourself.
and also you get a lot more people trying to, your clients are trying to work something with you where they're like, well, how about you don't take that much? Like they're trying to finagle more money out of it for themselves, no matter what that means.
They're business.
So, yeah, they're businessmen, and so it's just different in the aspect of like you're just dealing with people who are a little bit more experienced usually, and so they're a little bit more kind of hard nosed and tougher to deal with. Yeah.
Some more responsibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, just you definitely want to cover yourself when you're doing commercial. I would be interested to try it for a little bit. Maybe I'd like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But apparently it's very different. So just don't dabble in things that you have no
I've done one and
experience in.
it went fine. It was tougher, but it went fine. But like my favorite sale I've ever done was a couple who was buying their first property, like their first house, and it was just so easy because they were just like, yeah, we're just here to follow you, whatever you say, you're the expert. And like it just made it super easy for me because I didn't have to like worry about them trying to do something because they know the secrets and the ends. I knew I could trust them to listen to me and follow my instructions. And if I tell them, hey, you need to call your lender to make sure that you're getting them this information, I know they did it because they were as willing to do whatever they needed to do to get this house because it's their first house they ever had. So it's just sometimes it's tougher with that. When you get more experienced people, you can be like, hey, you need to call your lender, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, man. It's like, no, I'm serious. Like, I need that info too, so that way we can get all this set up. And they're like, I'll get it to you. And we're like, so yeah, it's more experience. And it's just more annoying in a way, but
A little bit. Yeah.
some
So
of the money's like,
we do have someone that works in commercial. Yeah, commercial. I've seen commercial properties, man. They're like 2 acres going for over $1 million.
yeah, there's an acre on Southwest and Highway 6. That's the one I was looking at this client for, and I think it was 1.4 million, and it's like an acre, but it's just right at Highway 6 and Southwest Parkway. And so
It's location.
yeah, it's
So
just
if even just a
It's right
commercial
across the
lot.
street from the Central Park.
yeah, around there.
Yeah, it's on the water wheel right behind you.
Yeah.
I go walk around that thing every day.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
um,
is it really close to that dealership?
Yeah.
so commercial land goes for a lot more.
Yeah.
I think the commissions are actually a little different too. I don't quote me on that.
They can be.
I imagine there's a little bit of difference there as well. I mean, if you're gonna make 6% off of the $2 million deal or
Be nice.
whatever, it's, you know,
6%, huh?
And I'm
that's a
assuming,
$60,000 payday.
and I'm assuming you need a different license just to do commercial, or it's
No, it's the same thing. Yeah.
I can technically practice
Yeah.
commercial.
That's
I
what we're
just have
saying.
no
The license
experience
you
in
get
it.
in this class, you can do commercial with that. You can do anything.
You can do pretty much anything other than practice as a broker and put
Yeah.
stuff in your name, stuff like that. I mean, you can go, you can go be an appraisal and inspector if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You'd have to get a license for those, but with the actual real estate license, you can do commercial, you can do residential, you can do,
Great, just make fun.
there's a lot of different things you can do in real estate, which is why I think it's a pretty good career. So yeah, the broker working with or for the seller. So explain and discuss in detail the brokerage company's agency disclosure form and the broker's agency position at the time, as well as the Texas Real Estate Commission's IABS form. So you actually are gonna have to explain in detail your agency to your client, as well as provide them with the information about broker services form. Remember, IABS is an important form. You have to get that to them. The broker working for with the seller continued. So this is before an agency relationship has even started. You gotta do all of this. This is before we have even signed a listing agreement or a buyer's rep agreement. I gotta get them the IABS form. I gotta give them a blank copy of the contract. I gotta explain sub-agency and obtain permissions to use that agency. I gotta explain to them the splitting of the commissions. A lot of clients don't understand the splitting of commissions. Why am I paying you 6%? Well, I don't get the full 6. It was 3 and 3. Or it could differ, but you have to explain that commission to your client. And also any permissions to use the MLS. You're gonna list the property, you have to get permission from them to actually list it on the MLS. Any fees to the buyer's agents, which is of course negotiable. You're gonna have to explain to them the seller's disclosure and get that form to them. Just remember, just tell them, fill it out to the best of your abilities. And if there's a possibility of intermediary, you also have to do that. So this is all before we even get a contract with them. You can see a lot of people don't see some of the stuff you do. There's a lot of steps. Okay, so there's a lot of steps in real estate. Some other steps. Discuss the seller's motivation. Why are they selling or why are they buying? Answer questions about the listing agreement. If they have any questions about the listing agreement. Discuss fair housing laws. Gather data for a BPO and discuss whether the seller needs to determine the listing price. So you can remember we said BPOs and CMAs, you can determine a relative listing price by doing that. It's basically comparables in the area. Properties that have alike, similar features as that one. You also need to answer all seller questions and ask the seller to sign the listing agreement. Now, once we actually have a listing agreement signed, there's a list in your book, but you'll need to discuss requirement for seller disclosure, discuss staging the home for showing it, discuss what personal property will go with the property. That's a big one. When you get a listing, you want to discuss with your client, what do you actually want to convey, if anything? And if there's stuff that they want to keep, obviously there will be. You get them to put it into one area, such as the garage or something. If they have a garage, they put all the stuff you're taking with you into the garage, leave the other stuff for staging, or the stuff that's going to stay. So that it's not, it's not mistaken when people come in the house. Is that going to convey? Is that going to convey? Is that going to convey? If he has it all in one section and then you say on the listing, everything in the garage will not convey, then your client's covered and they're not going to end up having to leave something that they didn't want to leave. So yeah, you'll need to discuss what personal property they're actually going to take with them. And then you're going to need to show the property and keep the seller informed of any showings, any buyer's questions, buyer's likes or dislikes. What did they not like about the property? What can we fix to possibly get it sold? Stuff like that. So once an offer is made, you need to relay all offers to the seller. We talked about that. All offers, doesn't matter how, but now how do you relay it to them? If I have multiple offers, how do I relay all of them to my client? Do I do them in the order that I was received them? Or do I just give them the one that's the most expensive? What do y'all think? What do you think? Can you go in here?
What was the question?
So if I have multiple offers, how do I present them to my client? Do I give them all at once in the order that they received? Do I give them the one that's the most expensive first? How would I give them to them?
In the order you received.
In the order you received? Okay. What about you, Colin? You know? How would I give it to them? I got multiple offers. I got 10 offers on the table.
Okay.
How would I present those to my client?
I would go with their same answer as his.
So in the order that I received them?
10, I'm saying 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to go on this one, or I can do it? So generally, what you want to do is you want to give them all the offers at the same time, and you can order them from the highest price to the lowest price. You can't order them like that and give them to your client.
You just have to give them all.
You just have to give them every single one. So if I were to get 10 offers in a day, yeah, I would set
Okay, all 10 of them.
all 10 of them. It doesn't matter.
Honestly, what I would do is just make a stack. Here.
Yeah.
let's go through this.
Or just-
It's like,
Makes
just,
sense, makes sense.
Yeah.
Or send them all over an email and say,
here's all the offers.
here's all the offers.
Yeah.
Which one you want to go with? But
Some
you can order them as high as to lowest. Nothing wrong with that. You still got to give them every offer that you got. So.
Or the
I
other
thought
way
there
around.
was something against it. I thought you were saying that something like you can't order it just like
You can order it, however, you have to give them everything.
Oh,
That's what it was, is like you can't,
holding back.
if I get 10 of them, I can't just give them the 3 highest ones
Gotcha.
and be like, it's gonna be one of these 3 because the other ones aren't worth it. You have to give them everything.
You have to give them everything.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No matter the ordering office.
Yeah, no matter the order of it, you just have to make sure they get them.
Because the offer that's the highest might not always be the best.
Yeah.
There's other terms in the
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, concessions and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
never know if you're gonna. You might get one that's 10,000 over, but it requires 20,000 in concessions.
Yeah.
Over there, now I'm 10,000 under technically. It's like, so
So you never know with that. Yeah, so you're gonna want to give them all offers and assist in negotiations. So what do we need to change in this contract? Is there anything that is unfavorable to us that we need to change? We'd actually need to assist them in negotiations and counter offers and stuff like that. When you counter offer, and then let's say I get we have an offer, we counter it, we send the counter out, and then I get another offer from another party. Can I accept that other offer?
No, because you're in.
Because I would counter it.
Yeah.
Right. So when you counter, you can't accept another offer until you either rescind that counter or they deny it or so on.
So it has to be dealt with.
It has to be dealt with before you accept another offer. So, because if I have a counter offer out there and then they decide, oh, sign it right now, sign it. And it's actually happened to me. I had a counter offer out there and I had a better offer come in. But I let them know, and I probably shouldn't have let the other agent know that, hey, we got another offer in because we had a counter out. I was still new.
Yeah.
And since we had a counter out and I told him that we had another offer coming in, he said, oh, accepted. They accepted whatever the terms were on our counter
Yeah.
and locked us into it. It turned out it fell through, of course, but he did lock us into agreement that we didn't want to be in. So we tried to get him to kick us out of it. But so that does happen. You got to be careful when you have counters out there, counter offers. It is technically another offer.
that's why we were talking about. You don't want to. If you get 10 offers, you can't counter offer all of them.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, the
Yeah,
best thing would just be to send out an email saying we have a lot of offers in. If you want this, I would suggest sending another offer that's your highest and best offer. We'll look at those. Problem is if you counter all of them, and everybody accepts them, now you're committed to selling your house to 10 people. So it's like
So what are you
now,
gonna do?
yeah. So yeah,
Pretty much screwed at that point.
yeah, and same with buying properties. You can't send out. Well, I'll just send out an offer here, here, and here because I like those 3 houses. Because if they all accept it,
Now
you're stuck into buying 3 homes. So this is like,
You put an offer out, you're with that offer, so
Yeah.
it's either you don't come to an agreement or you do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that does happen quite a bit. Like I said, it happened to me. All right, so once there is actual contract, they've actually got a contract on a house. There's a list in your book, but you need to make sure that earnest money has been deposited according to the contract. There's going to be stipulations in the contract of where it's going, how much it is. So you need to make sure it's been deposited. You need to encourage the seller to make any necessary repairs on the property if you're working for the seller. You need to keep in contact with the seller regarding updates from the buyer's agent. So any updates. I'm actually doing a deal right now where I'm having trouble getting the other agent to do what she's supposed to do. I actually have to call her and be like, so when's the survey date? So do you have a survey date for me?
Deal with it.
Give me a survey date,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So you need to keep in contact with the buyer's agent during the contract and tell your seller pretty much anything that happens. Request to see a copy of the settlement statement before closing to check for any errors and omissions. Settlement statements, just that we've gone over it before, I believe, haven't we? That's just what you get a few days before closing, stating where money's going. Basically.
Yeah, it's that form I pulled up. I know in your last class that had the
Yeah.
This person's credited this much, and this is how much the survey costs, and it's coming out. Just so you know where all the money is going on.
And tell the seller what to bring to closing, and then attend closing if required. Honestly, just go.
Yeah.
We highly recommend you go to a closing. Justin's had people walk out when they got into an argument because one of his agents couldn't be there.
Yeah.
A deal can go south at a closing. It's just better if you're there. You can help mitigate if it does happen. So always go to a closing if you can, and if you can't go to the closing, get someone to fill in for you. Get someone else to go in for you. One of your other co-agents, other people in the firm. Okay, so we did working with the seller. This is working with the buyer. So this is before representation agreement has been signed. Present information, the IABS form, and explain the services to the buyer. Discuss the fee structure. How are we getting paid? Explain items in the buyer rep agreement. Yeah, it's lightning.
It's lightning.
It's about to come down. It's raining now. I can't even tell you.
Yes.
Explain items in the buyer representation agreement. Discuss the policy on intermediary. If you think you're going to be doing intermediary. Provide the buyer, or provide information to the buyer, IABS, the mold information, any lead information, and fair housing, etc. And gain written buyer representative agreement. So this is before you get this agreement. Now, after we have representation agreement signed, you need to create a profile of the buyer's wants and needs. What are they actually looking for? What do they want? And what do they actually need? I may need a 4-bedroom house, but do I need a pool? No, I just want one. But if you know your client's your client's needs and wants, it can help you narrow down the search.
Yeah, I wish I had one thing. Like one thing my wife kind of organized for me is she made a client at a glance sheet. So basically, whenever I get a call from a client or a potential client, as I'm talking to them, it has like bed, bath, living square footage, lot size. They want this many acres. If they want to be in a certain like school district, or it has all that stuff kind of on this Word document she made, and I have a bunch of them in my folder. And so basically, as I get a call from a client, I can pull that out and fill it out as I'm talking to them. But then I have a list and a profile of what that person wants and needs, and that way I can go do searches for them, and I can get. If I don't talk to them for a week, like if we go a week between talking, because they're busy or they're out of town or whatever, I don't think I need to go talk to that or do that search for that person again, and I don't remember what they wanted. I have a paper that has all that stuff on it, and so I kind of keep them all together, and so I know exactly what they're looking for. So it just helps me kind of keep track of who's wanting what. You'll get people that like I have a client now that's like looking for a 4-bed, 3-bath, certain square footage size, but only in the Pebble Creek subdivision.
Oh, goodness.
She doesn't look anywhere else. She just wants to look there. But so I have all that stuff written down, so I can just keep doing searches and that, that. But like, I don't get confused.
I do the
and
same
look
thing.
Up, yeah, I don't get confused and look up the wrong place or whatever for the wrong person.
I'll put their name, what they're looking for, all that
Put all
stuff.
stuff together.
Is it going to be hail again? I don't want to deal with hail again. So yeah, create a profile of the buyer's wants and needs. Identify properties and present to the buyer for review. And if there's any of the ones that they reviewed that they like, you're going to set up an appointment to view the property. And then discuss the importance of the seller's property disclosure. They don't fill out the sellers, you're on the buyer's side, but it's still important for them to look at it. You don't want to get that to them. And then after you have all that, you start making an offer. You assist the buyer in making an offer, answering any questions about the contract. You deliver the offer to the listing agent. It could be email, could be by hand, by mail even. And then facilitate negotiations and counter offers. So you'll be the one that's actually doing the negotiating and the counter offers. You're still going to be doing what your client tells you, but you'll be the one that's actually dealing with the other agent making the negotiations happen and any counter offers as well.
Justin said it's supposed to be a hand, so just, if we wanna shut it down, we can, or whatever.
How bad is bad?
It's just supposed to be like this. It's not supposed to hail or anything, it just doesn't. He was like, it's already lightning outside. It does that.
Yeah, lightning's not a big deal.
It does that.
How much we got left? Let's see. I mean, we got a bit left. We can push through it.
Okay.
I think we'll probably be out a little after 7.
Yeah, I say we just watch pretty much, but like he said, that he has his video up, so if we don't cover something fully. That's an option, so.
Okay, so making an offer, yeah, like I said, facilitate negotiations and any counter offers as well. Once there is a signed contract, you track all deadlines. Deadlines are very important. They can cost you a deal if you miss a deadline. You're going to deposit earnest money, assist the buyer with any obligations and deadlines for those items, such as loan applications, sending the contract to the lender, inspections, appraisals, stuff like that. And as closing date nears, you got to make sure that all the obligations for the contract and any contingencies have been wrapped up and fulfilled. And then tell the buyer what to bring to closing, and then attend the closing if required. Just attend the closing. Just go to the closing. So another broker is the buyer's broker. Sorry. Disclose to all listing brokers and disclaim any agency or sub-agency relationships with the seller or the seller's agent. If you're working with the buyer. Okay, so listing broker with the buyer customer. They get the information about brokerage services. Client versus customer, we've talked about that multiple times. Just know the difference between those two. If you're working for the seller, or if you use any technical advisors, and you may move from customer to client if you give them a copy of the buyer rep agreement. Well, they got to have an agreement to be a client. Any in-house sale policies, any competing buyers, any properties for the buyer on the MLS, other properties that the buyer may see as well, not on the MLS, and any miscellaneous topics. All right, so listing broker and buyer's broker. If an offer received from a buyer's broker, then it would be cooperative. It would resolve commission issues, and it would make the seller aware of all fees that they have to pay, as well as offer represents the buyer's interest. So an offer received from the buyer's broker would offer all of these. And the key question is there a net effect to the seller? So an other broker as a sub-agent of the seller instead of the buyer's broker, we need the IABS forms, disclose the seller agency to the buyer, explain limitations of service, notify listing broker of sub-agency, verify commission splits, act in the best interest of the seller, and inquire about the listing broker's procedures. Intermediary. So remember, intermediary is reduced agency relationships for both the buyer and seller. They get less services because I can't really give them advice or opinions. But you need to have written consent of all parties to be an intermediary. Got to treat all the parties fairly and honestly. Avoid disclosure of any confidential info. and determine when and if appointments will be made. Also, you need to comply with trade law, obviously. Here's some examples. Those are dialogue situations you can use, or you've seen, you can possibly use and rehearse. So there's a couple scenes in your book, if y'all want to go through that. It's just examples of rehearsed dialogue, which just means, dialogue that you would use in several different situations. Practice presentations can also assist in defense of disclosure. So a listing presentation or something like that. Other considerations, presentation of offers by listing broker or multiple offers. We've talked about multiple offers, like I said, gotta give them all. Any presentation of backup offers. You're going to want to talk to your broker about a backup offer because you can kind of lock your client into an agreement that they can't get out of. It can be a good and a bad thing. So if you're ever going to do a backup offer, consult with your broker about that. Any retained earnest money, commission, or written agreements. Sometimes you might have to explain to a client how actually earnest money works as well. Remember, present all offers. The broker cannot accept or reject offers on behalf of their client. Only the client can accept or reject an offer. Fully explain the terms of the offer and maintain confidentiality of the offer. Presentation of multiple offers, like I said, simultaneous offers. What happens if you get a second offer while considering the first offer? If we're still considering the first offer, we haven't signed it. So I could technically go for the second offer. But yeah, like we were saying earlier, if you have a counter out, you can't accept another offer. So if I get a second offer and I had a counter out. But in this case, I was just considering the first offer. I could technically accept the second offer. All right, we're almost there, guys. Some more other considerations. Presentation of subsequent or backup offers. If the seller is already under contract, like I was just saying, then you can't accept another offer. Tortillas interference, that would be like, it's the kind of case of tortillas? Tortillas. Okay, so that type of interference, it's basically just if I were to tortillas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tortillas.
Tortillas interference.
Yeah.
So that it basically, if I was trying to screw up a contract, like if I had a friend that wanted to buy a house and I was already under contract, and I intentionally try and screw up this contract so he can get the house because he's going to pay more, that's what would be like tortillas.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of that's what that would be. Yes. Any contracts permits the seller to accept a backup offer. So you can accept a backup offer while you have an offer.
Yeah, I had a client that she wanted to put an offer on a house, but they were already under contract. It was pending.
Yeah.
And I was like, we can put in a backup offer, but like, then you're stuck with that one only if that falls through. And I'm pretty sure I talked to the agent and they're like 90% sure everything's gonna go. Like they're almost done. Like it's not like it's the first 2 days. Like it's been 2 or 3 weeks at this point of their 30 days. Like it's basically a done deal. Yeah. She was like, what do you is there anything we could do to like, could we offer them like, we'll pay for their costs to get out of that contract? And I'm like, that's not really a thing.
Yeah,
Well, how about if they like breach that contract? We'll pay other fees if they come up to do it. I'm like, that's illegal.
You're asking
You
them
can't
to-
you can't just force them to get rid of this contract because they're like that's not how that works.
We'll just pay the
Like,
legal.
yeah.
That's like picking up someone's court fees and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want them to get out of that and then
Well, she
cover
was like,
that
they'll
yourself.
lose the
Like,
earnest money by breaking out of the contract, so we'll just pay them extra that earnest money on top of
Oh,
it. And I was like, y'all are too much. Go away.
I guess is that tortoise workers?
Yeah.
tequila and the
Tequila and middle?
food.
All of the above.
We just gotta come up with random keys every time we say.
Yes.
So any retained earnest money not addressed by track contracts, some listing contracts permit it, and brokers rarely pursue retained earnest money. So commissions are negotiated between the broker and the principal. There's no set fee. It's negotiable. The listing broker is the one who controls the splits. But if you split something and say, hey, you get a 1.5% on the MLS, if I'm only getting 1.5%, you're going to scare off quite a bit of buyers if you do that. So generally, it is still 3 and 3, but it's not technically a set fee. So you might see different every now and then, but yeah. So clarify the fee before showing the property, and the broker has a duty to cooperate with other brokers, but only if the cooperation is within the best interest of their client. Cooperation does not necessarily mean compensation. So if I'm cooperating with you, it doesn't, even if I'm just paying you, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm cooperating with you just by paying you. Written agreements, strongly recommended, like I said, put in writing. Buyers reluctant to sign because it's not customary, or they might fear additional fees, or they just fear commitment to one agent. They may not understand the benefits of representation, so you may have to explain that to them. Oh yeah, it's getting really thundery out there. Lightning. Risk management, develop a written office policy manual, which is required by TRILA. Purchase E&O insurance, that's errors and omission insurance. Your broker will offer that. Each broker has their own errors and omission insurance, but you're going to want that. And recommend area experts, but like I said, don't just give them one. All right, our key points. Use written disclosures to clarify the roles, and use services of others. Develop written policies and procedures. Prepare clients and customers through explanations. Present all offers promptly. You can't let them sit over the weekend on your desk. That's not promptly. Discuss earnest money retention. Commissions are always negotiable. Oral contract is okay, but it's best to go in writing. And use rehearsed dialogues. Practice dialogues. Suggestions for brokers: practice real life situations in training classes. Document topics covered in training class. And identify participating licensees. Who's actually going to the classes? Who's actually going to the
That was a 3.
All right. Discussion questions, and then we'll discuss what we're going to do for the test next week, and the study session that we're going to do next week as well. So, number one, how can listing brokers protect themselves from liability for the wrongful acts of an authorized agent? Carla.
Disclosing information in a way that's oh, okay. Insurance.
Purchasing E&O insurance. Exactly right. Good job. Without any assistance whatsoever.
How you doing?
I
Oops, I
Say
said-
about this.
I was gonna say to threaten them to beat their, if they didn't act right.
Well,
Mafia.
yeah,
That's how you do it. Yeah, that's what Justin does. He just threatens us all the time.
he does.
Works pretty well.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
It's ineffective.
So what should sellers be told about the
Insurance.
listing broker splitting the commission with the following: the sub-agent and the buyer's broker?
3 and 3.
Just everything.
Okay. Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly right. Just explain the commission. Explain where the money is going. Basically. How should listing brokers handle an offer submitted by a buyer's broker with a request to pay the broker out of the sales proceeds?
Burn it.
So how should I handle that? They're asking for my proceeds, so.
Yeah.
The buyer's broker, right? They're asking for my proceeds out of the sale.
I mean, you tell them that and then also mention that, no, you probably can't.
I mean, technically in that situation, yeah, you would tell them.
You would just tell them that you can cut off.
So you,
It's like I did everything for free.
yeah, so is this actually allowed? Yes, it's allowed. It does happen.
Wow.
Maybe you got it?
I think we're holding the finger. We'll figure this out. So.
So if they agree to it, if my buyer agrees to it,
And
then it is what it is. And that does happen. It is allowed. What procedures should a cooperating broker follow in working with the following buyers? Customer basis and a client basis. And there's different procedures for each. There's certain things you can do for a customer and certain things you can do for a client.
Like disclosing.
there's like that checklist, right? In the checklist, there's like, you gotta be honest, fair with them. And it's like the typical stuff for like any customer in the store, and then if they, once they sign the contract, they will be representing them, then there's like all the benefits, all the.
Yep. You can give them advice and opinions,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So very good.
You wanted me.
Yeah.
I was on that one.
You had that one. List 3 good reasons for reducing to writing a buyer's broker agreement. So basically list 3 good reasons for writing a buyer's broker agreement.
Prevent litigation.
Prevent litigation, good, very good. What else? 2 more.
What you online people doing?
What does the buyer broker arrangement do? It outlines
It outlines.
my duties. It outlines my duties. It's going to outline my liabilities. And as you said, litigation as well. Also, it's going to outline my payment.
Big one.
Big ones.
Yeah, well, we know.
Big ones.
Because I don't remember that.
All right, that's it. We did it. We are through agency course. We are finally done. Congrats, guys. We did it.
Good for yourself.
I can't.
So let's go ahead and stop the recording.
That's so good.